Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul. I am a nerd. You already know that probably. What you don't know is that this is the July 2011 virtual user group meeting that we affectionately call the water cooler. Well, actually, come to think of it, if you're here, then you probably do know that. And you probably know what we're going to be talking about, which is how to customize the menu tabs within PracticeMaster and Tabs and AP and GL and Trust, and how to use the Client Manager to do all sorts of neat things within Tabs3. And we also have our new feature, our monthly Platinum Tip of the Month, which is this month is going to be about why and how filters are going to be faster in version 16. And so we're going to start with a little bit of house cleaning and a little bit of housekeeping, I suppose, and show you how to move around within GoToWebinar so that if you have questions, you'll be able to ask them. And if you have a big box in front of the right quarter of your screen, you'll be able to get rid of it. So you are hopefully looking at something that looks a little bit like this, a box that's jutting off from the right-hand side of your screen. And jutting off to the left of that big box is a little box with probably 3 icons in it. One of them at the top looks like arrows that point to the right. If you click that, those arrows will change to arrows that point to the left, and this big box will slide right out of the way so that you can see whatever is behind it. That way, if our screen is what is being covered up by this bigger box here, you can get it out of the way and see what's behind it. Once you have slid that big box out of the way, this icon here and these arrows turn into left-pointing arrows. Clicking that again will slide this box back into play. Why would you want to do that? Because you're shy and you want to type a question right here, and that question will appear for me or Mary Jo to see, and we will ask, repeat your question and then answer it and then make sure we've got it answered. If we don't answer it, just type a follow-up question here and we'll see that too. If you're not shy, click this button here, which looks like a hand with an arrow in front of it. It means that you are raising your hand. We'll see that you have raised your hand, and we will unmute you. So be careful when you raise your hand. You have to stop chewing on the Doritos that you're chewing on, because we will unmute you, let you ask your question, make sure that you've got it answered all the way, then we'll mute you back up so you can go back to your Fritos or Cheetos or chips. Now, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, and we're going to start with our first topic. I am going to talk about, there we go, customizing these screens. Now, some people go through their entire life with Tabs3 or PracticeMaster or Accounts Payable or General Ledger or Trust Accounting, not knowing that they can do this. They may see these two things down here, but they have no idea what they mean. If I click on Customize, I'm going to be able to change the icons that appear in these various locations. 4 on the top, 4 in the middle, 4 on the bottom. Why would I want to do that? Well, here's an exit icon. Everybody knows this X in the upper right-hand corner gets us out of PracticeMaster or Tabs, or Trust, or whatever we happen to be in. We don't really need this exit icon. We could put something else there. Let's say, for instance, that we want very much to be able to go to the report writer. So if I get into the Customize mode and then click that icon, which is under here, I'm not going to that. I'm not doing that when we're in the Customize mode. I am taking us to a place where we can decide what should be there. So if I look for Report Writer, and by the way, it comes up grouped by menu, and I prefer to see them all in alphabetical order, so I always click this description header and get them sorted alphabetically. And I am looking for, Mary Jo, what did I say I was going to add? Thank you. I turned 50 this year. That's my disclaimer for just about everything I do that's dumb. I'm getting old. Report Writer, and say OK. And there it is, Report Writer. Now, here's what's really cool. And if you're paying close attention, you might notice that this icon corresponds with this icon in the toolbar. and this icon corresponds with this one, and so on and so forth. So when we change what appears on this tab, this main tab, it will change up here. Now you may be wondering, why does this still look like the exit icon? Because I haven't gone into run mode, and I haven't said I want to save the changes. And when I do, that changes into Report Writer. And now clicking this here or clicking this here causes us to run the Report Writer. Now, why is it so cool that this changes? Here's why. If I go into the client file, I still have these icons up here. So no matter what I have loaded, I might have my calendar on the screen, I might have the client file like I do now, I might have the contact file, whatever. Whatever I have, I still have access to, and I can still see this toolbar. So if I get my menu, my tab up front, my main tab here, set the way I want it to be, then I have the option of being able to always go to those toolbar items no matter what programs I may be in. Very, very helpful. Now, there are a couple other toolbars that you can customize within PracticeMaster. Not toolbars, a couple other screens, a couple other tabs. I can customize this Report tab, and I can customize this Files tab. Now, the very cool thing about the Report tab is that if I go into Customize, and here's one that hasn't even been assigned, I actually even have access to my custom reports. So if you've written custom PracticeMaster reports that you run all the time, you can put them on this particular tab, the Reports tab. What isn't quite as cool as what you have with this main tab is that you don't have a button bar up here. You don't have a toolbar that corresponds with this Reports. And you can also customize the File screen, File tab, if you will. And again, you don't have a button bar or a toolbar that corresponds with it, but any files that you added to the structure, if Mary Jo will give me my mouse back, any other files that you add can be put on this tab here. So we, for instance, have something we call the People tab, or the People file. I believe it's a lookup, no, it's common client related. Come on. There we go. And People, we actually have something called Incidents and Opportunity. We have the other ones like Fee and Cost. Those can all go here. So, yes, you can put any file that you want on this tab here for Files. And Mary Jo, you got to stop typing for a sec. This is a good time to mention that this is the first time since Leanne joined us that she is not here today. She has her son taking advanced placement tests, or what do they call them, ACTs or AS, whatever. My daughter just started going to college, or starts going to college next year, and I've already forgotten what test she took to get in. So that's why Mary Jo's over there answering questions. Leanne's not with us today. So these three tabs, Reports, Files, and the main tab, can be customized to contain virtually whatever you want. And when you customize the main tab, it also will replicate itself up here, so that what you have put on this main tab will appear in the same order on this toolbar up here. Now, one thing about reports, while you can put custom reports back here on this Report tab, you cannot put them up on the main tab. That would just be too cool, and the people at STI don't want you to get too excited about these things, so they may be in another release. Right now, if you have a custom report, you can put it and an icon representing it on this Reports tab, but it cannot go up here. Okay. Now, there's another place where you can customize things. It's in Tabs, and I'm going to take you there real quick.
Paul, before you do that,
yeah?
I just want to add something on the PracticeMaster.
Okay.
When you said that you can click on these icons up in the toolbar up here, I just want to make sure everybody knows, be careful, because every time you click on that, you're opening another instance of the client file.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not taking you directly to where you were before. It's going to open up the client file again. And if you come up there and click on it again, it's going to open it again and again. And you might have 10 different client files open.
Which, with apologies to any attorneys that are present, I call attorney syndrome, because they tend to be the ones who do this. They open up a client file that goes, look at the calendar, they go back to the client file, they go back to the calendar, and sooner or later you have multiple windows open. So if I were to do that, click here, and then maybe click here, and then maybe click here. It's not catching up with us yet, but it will in a second. And then maybe click here. I am not switching between the client file and the calendar file. If you open up this window view here, I will explain that I'm actually opening up, I've got 2 instances of the monthly calendar and 1 instance of the client. So I wasn't switching back to the monthly calendar. I was actually opening up a new instance. Very good point, Mary Jo. Now, one thing to remember is that if you open things multiple times, or I'm sorry, if you open multiple things, calendar, client, maybe your task list, maybe the report writer screen so you can run several custom reports, you can always get back to the currently open window by clicking this window menu item, the words as opposed to the pictures. And that will show you all your currently active windows with a number next to them. And you can just click on the appropriate window that you want to go back to. If I wanted to go back to the client, the best way to do it would be click window and go back to the client this way. So yeah, very good point. Now I'm going to take you back into Tabs, and I'm going to show you that we do have this other thing that you can customize. Oh, and by the way, just like I said, I'm going to get out of here real quick. It's hard to get used to not having Leanne, isn't it, Mary Jo? Mary Jo and I used to do this all the time without Leanne, and the thing you have to be careful of is that when Mary Jo's moving her cursor around to look at questions people are asking, it's also moving the cursor around here. We've had Leanne doing that for us for the last probably, what, 4 or 5 months. It's easy to get used to having that. Is that on this main tab here, you have this same ability to customize the what's showing up, and I believe in Tabs you also have, no, that's not true, I lied. In Tabs, APGL Trust, it is only the main tab that you can customize. Okay. Now, one thing that's very cool is the Client Manager. Mary Jo's going to talk about that, but I just want to show you that you have one further place where you can customize what icons show up, and it's right here. But I have taken you into the Client Manager, and it is now Mary Jo's turn to talk, so she's going to tell you all about the Client Manager.
Okay, I'm going to just tell you some fast, easy ways to get to different parts of Tabs. Instead of going out, I know usually when you're on your main screen and you are on that, the main task folders, you have to go into the client or go into the fee or go into cost when you're adding things for each client, or payments, or generating statements, or doing a report, something like that you want to do for an individual client. You can get to through Client Manager. You can, if you're a billing person and you're sending out a lot of bills and you have to modify the bills and the fees when you get those draft statements back, you're going into the fee, and then you might be having to go into cost, and then you might have to adjust a payment. You might have to change the client address. You might have to give them a courtesy discount. There's all those kinds of things that you have to do in billing, especially, that you don't want to be having to go into each individual icon, and add those things or change those things. And so what Tabs has done is they've put together all of those features under the Client Manager. And I hear this every time. I'm always surprised because I try to preach this a lot. I know Paul does in our training. We make everyone aware of this, but there's still so many people that don't know that it's there. And so we just wanted to kind of bring that to light today. So this Client Manager icon, you'll see right away, it puts together, once you type in your client, you're searching the same way you would out in Tabs, by name or by client number. It will bring up all the important client information at a glance. So I will be able to see that this client is Scooby-Doo Inc. I know his address. I know who the primary, secondary, originating attorneys are, all of the contact information. Everything is there. I also get all the AR and the WIP and the payment information if there were any. And if you're using client funds, I get that information. I get to know what their billing frequency is. Are they on, the regular? Are they on monthly? Are they on contingent? What are we doing here? When was their last statement? When did the last payment come in? It's taking all of those important bits of information that we see on the client file or in the fee file or the cost or payment file and putting it all in one place for you. So that's the first thing that you get right off the bat. If I needed to change something for this particular client, let's say I wanted to change his address or his phone number or their email changed, I can click right here on the link. Now in version 16, it's the link. If you have a version prior to version 16, there is a little file folder that appears on the left-hand side of the client ID number. You click on that little file folder, that will take you to the same place. But if you have version 16, it's the link now. So if I click on the little link, it's taking me back to my address, my setup, all of my screens that I need to see in tabs for the client information. At that point, I can go ahead and change my address, my email. I can go in and I can give new instructions. I can change the template that we're using. Whatever I need to do, I can give the courtesy discount, do all of those things. When I close the window, it takes me right back into Client Manager. So I might have a pre-bill in front of me that I have to change the address, I have to give a courtesy discount, and then somebody spelled, all these words wrong on the fee entry, so I have to correct that. I can come right here and I can do it all at one screen. So I've just changed my client information, and now if I want to actually change, I've got a fee entry and a cost entry out here. If they had an AR balance, you'd be able to see it up here as well. But these are all buttons that you can click down onto and get in and actually see the information. So if I click on my fee whip button, I can see that I've got one time entry in here. If you had more, they would all be listed here, and you could highlight whichever one you needed to change, and you can go ahead and you can say, okay, it will take me right out to that entry, and I can make the changes. It has the reference numbers, so if you're using those on your draft statements and you need to go out and look at those reference numbers, you can order that by the reference number. You can also sort by date or whatever is easier for you to find. But I'm going to go ahead and click on this highlighted fee entry that we have right now and say OK, and it's going to just take me right to that fee window. I can make my changes or additions to that fee entry. I can change the time, anything I need to do, make it non-billable, and I can save it. And again, if I had more to change, I could do it right there. I could come back in and choose it off my list. Same thing with cost. It will take me right into my cost. I can also create a new entry for both of those, fee or cost. So if there was an additional time entry that was left off and they want you to add it, I can just go ahead and say new, and it will take me over there. I could add payments or modify payments if there were any here. And then also I could see the client funds balance. AR balance, if I click on that, that's going to go take me out to the 0 to 30 or up, on my AR breakdown. And if you're using trust, I can actually see their trust balance as well. There is also the ability to customize on that window for the AR. So if you wanted to do a detailed AR report for this client, we could do that. We could customize this just like Paul had shown you in the other windows, choose what we want to, and we can add, maybe a report for the AR. If we want to see, or maybe their client funds. You want to do a client funds report or something like that for their whatever you want to see. You can add those on the screen as well. Click Run, and it will ask you if you want to save, and you can do that. But a lot of clients ask me, where's the trust information? It is underneath the AR balance, and then you will see the trust balances here. Client funds, if you're using that, it's out here on the main screen. So that's how you can go in and you can modify existing or add new fee, cost, WIP, payments, things like that. Just like the other screens, we can also modify any of these icons. Out of the box, it only gives you like maybe 4 or 5. I can't remember how many. And there's some things on here that just make sense to have. If you want to generate a statement from here, and I just clicked on Generate Statement, most everybody has their default definition to create a draft statement when you create a statement first. So if I just clicked on this, it would create a draft statement and show me what is on the client's bill right now. I can get a quick view and just see what's going on. If I right-click on this icon, I can click on Statements. It will take me right out to the Generate Statements window, and I can actually create a final bill from here. So that's important. And then after I've created that final bill, I can update the statement for that client right here under Client Manager. I can also come in and unbill a final statement. Now this is an icon I added because I know unbill, undo, reprint, those usually aren't on there out of the box, but you can just hit Customize and put the main things that you do in Client Manager on your screen. This is set up by users, so maybe the billing department wants certain information, but a different department would like something else. Collections or something might want a collections report out here. But you could do that. But I would suggest definitely adding unbill, undo, and reprint, because that's the things you usually do on a single client-by-client basis. If you have to unbill multiple clients, you're not going to do that here in Client Manager. You're going to go out and unbill and select your clients you want to unbill. But if it's just one client, you got to go in and unbill it or reprint their statement. You can do that here. I also like to see the transaction file list, because that's a key report that I would use a lot. Also the client ledger report. That's another one that's big. I also like to see write-off and write-up and write-down, because that's another thing you would do probably on an individual client basis. So this aged work in process, I usually don't see that so much, or I don't use that one. You may, but I could customize, and I could put write-off the client in there, and then I could also change another one. Maybe I don't need the client budget report or the detail work in process. That's up to you. You can choose. You've got up to 10 different icons here that you can put on there. But I usually have write-off and write-up and write-down on here as well. Again, you would just hit the run, and now that's available to do that. If this client had an AR balance, I could click on that and just go write them off right from here. That's another one with billing I find, very helpful to use, and, it just makes it very easy. Once you've made a change, sometimes you may need to refresh, and you can do that, and then all your changes will be reflected here. So if you modify times or whatever, you can hit that refresh, and it will go ahead and do that. And there's also a link directly to PracticeMaster from Client Manager. So if you are working back and forth, you can go over there from here as well. Any questions?
Well, Kelly said that it would be great to have a webinar just on report writing, and I said I agree. And
I do know one thing I didn't mention. When you customize your reports, let's say that I was in here and I had a report here that I wanted. There is the ability to have separate report definitions for Client Manager as you have out on the main report tab. So if, let's say for the firm-wide or for client-wide, when you run a transaction file list, you don't want to show zero balance clients, or I guess not even a transaction file list, I would say client ledger report, because that will only show up if there's a balance, if you check that box that says show zero balance clients. Well, if you're running that for a firm-wide basis, you don't want to see every client out there that has a zero balance. You just want to see the active client that has an actual balance to look at. But maybe in Client Manager, when you're doing it on a client-by-client basis, you want to see all the activity for this client in the client ledger report, whether they have a zero balance now or not. So I could set up a separate report definition by coming in here, clicking on a report, clicking report definition, and then choosing my parameters for Client Manager, and then saving that parameter that I want. So if I come in here and I choose different options here for Client Manager report and hit save, I can give it a name, a description. I wouldn't make it the default, because my main report would be the default, and then just say OK. And then that would be the report that I could run for Client Manager. So that is an option as well. You can set specific report definitions for Client Manager as opposed to the normal report.
And that is it. No more
other questions? Well, I'm going to turn it back to Paul for his tip of the day for version 16, or tip of the month, I should say.
Yeah, and I called this before a tip for Platinum, and that's not quite true. It is something specific to Platinum, but it's new in version 16, and that's what we're kind of emphasizing each month, something that's new in version 16 that might be something that people don't know about quite so much. And it is that filtering in version 16 is incredibly fast. If you have Platinum, it is using the client-server technology that's built into the Platinum version. And again, I said that wrong. It's not in just version 16 that filtering is fast. It is in version 16 Platinum that filtering is incredibly fast. In version 16, for the users that are on Platinum, which is what we used to call CSV, so if you have CSV, when you get your 16 update, it will be called Platinum. Same thing, but different name. Filtering will be a lot like the difference between reports in Platinum and reports in Platinum. And by that I mean that, have my mouse back, Mary Jo. By that I mean that reports for people that are running CSV tend to be about anywhere from 10 to 30 times faster than they were in the non-CSV version. Filtering now in version 16 has the same sort of a speed boost. Not very much to describe, just that this particular feature is incredibly fast in version 16 for users that are on the Platinum version. 2 seconds worth of background, 10 seconds I suppose. When you, in a non-Platinum version, non-16 Platinum version even, tell it that you want to filter, and for those that may not know, filtering is really just a way to limit records to certain criteria. We'll see what kind of, we have some fake filters in here. Here's one that shows us just customers. And when we run that, you'll see how quickly it changes from red to green, saying that it's filtered. That's because we're running Platinum. We have about 65, actually I think now it's about 8,500 records in our copy of PracticeMaster. If we didn't have CSV, it would have to pull all 8,500 records down that thin network cable that runs between the server and our desktop so that our computer could then sort through the 8,500 records and decide which ones were customers. If we have Platinum and version 16, those 8,500 records stay up at the server where things run very fast, where you don't have a thin network line to pull things through, and the server decides which of the records meet the criteria of being customer or whatever the filter is filtering, and then they send you down that thin network line only the records that apply and meet your filter criteria. So if you have 30,000 or 40,000 matters, if you will, in your system, and you want to list just of those matters that were opened yesterday, that might be 5 matters. In CSV, or Platinum I should say, version 16, it would send down the 5 matters that meet that criteria. In non-16 CSV, even the CSV that's before 16, or non-CSV at all, it would send all 40,000 records down that thin network cable where your computer would then sort through them. Obviously, with the network cable being kind of like a bottleneck, that's going to take a lot longer than the other methodology. So filtering is significantly faster, and filtering is very cool because you can write filters that say, have this filter show Don's active clients, or have this filter show Paul's active clients. Well, that's a great filter to have. Let's say you've got a firm of 12 attorneys, and each attorney has one that shows him or her their active clients, a filter that shows their active clients. That's what they want to see. In non-16, non-CSV, non-Platinum, that might take a minute or 2 to run, and that makes it worthless. No attorney really wants to sit there waiting for 2 minutes and 37 seconds, or however long it takes, for their list of active clients to pop up. But if that same list can pop up within, let's say, 5 or 10 seconds of them clicking on the filter, that's very useful. So frankly, the speed of the filters in Platinum version 16 makes filters something that in a large data set environment, a firm of 10 or 12 attorneys, makes sense, whereas it just was a little too slow to really do anything before. Any questions, Mary Jo?
Yes, Ann has her hand raised. Ann, I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question. Go ahead.
Could you quickly go over what the CSV is and the Platinum again?
Yeah. First off, my wife says I can do nothing quickly, but I will try to do this as quickly as possible. CSV and Platinum are the same thing. CSV is what they used to call it. It stands for Client Server Version. It's very nerdy. So the people in marketing at Software Technology said, let's start calling it Platinum. That said, the Platinum version is something that, for the most part, looks and acts the same way, except reports are faster, filters are faster, both of those significantly faster. You can make backups while people continue to use the software, something that I consider to be a huge feature. In PracticeMaster, there's something in Platinum called e-notes, which are ways to send. It's kind of like a cross between instant messaging and email. and can have an attached record, like take a look at this client matter and see if you think we should proceed to the next step, or take a look at this email I journaled this morning and see if you think I covered the right points in my reply. We also have something called, I can't think of the name that they've given it, but it is a way for the data, if you do run into a catastrophe, if the power goes out in the middle of updating statements, auto recover, that's what they call it, will actually step in and instead of you having to restore from a backup, will repair the damage, if you will. Huge, especially if you didn't make that backup before you did the update statements. So those are the major differences between Platinum and the regular multi-user version of Tabs or PracticeMaster. Any more questions, Mary Jo?
Nope, none yet right now.
Okay. Well, that's it then. We're out of time. And another month has come and gone, so next month we'll have our next virtual user group meeting at the end of August, on the last Monday of the month. Don't have that up right now, so I can't tell you what it is, and we haven't decided what the topics are, so I can't tell you what those are. But if you're here, it's probably because you got a reminder the Thursday before the virtual user group meeting telling you what the topics are. Look for that. Remember, if you want to attend but can't, all you need to do is register, and we will then send you the link to the recorded version after it's available. So you don't have to be here when we do this live. If you have a prior commitment or pre-existing engagement, you can simply register for the virtual user group meeting or the water cooler, and we will send you the link, usually within a few days of it having occurred. Sometimes it takes a little longer depending on what the schedule is and how long it takes to get the recording produced, if you will, and up on the internet. So if there are no more questions, we'll go ahead and say goodbye. Everybody have a good afternoon, and we will see you next month. Thanks.